Let's talk about some guys that I've got on my sell list for today. So I've got a guy at each position. Let's start with the quarterback position. The quarterback that I'm selling right now is Will Levis. Will Levis is QB 21 right now on Keep Trade Cut. What is Will Levis's like ceiling, right? They've went out, right? Let's talk about the situation. So, situation for Will Levis, they went out and got some of these weapons around him, right? You've got Ridley over there now. You still got D Hop. They've got Tony Pollard now. Like they're trying to give some weapons around Levis for him, for him to work with. But like, what's the ceiling on Will Levis? How much higher can he really go? Right? I mean, right? Jared Goff is QB 18 right now. He ain't going no higher than Jared Goff. I mean, Will Levis is a second round pick. He didn't get the first round draft capital. Like, yes, he was picked in the early second, but that matters. Is he the QB of the future? I don't think he is. So right now, like, is a good sell window. We talk about sell windows at the peak, right? Is Will Levis at the peak of what he's valued at right now at QB 21? Like Bryce Young is up there, JJ McCarthy, Jared Goff, Drake May, Tua. Like you'd rather have any of those guys, right? Even go underneath Will Levis. You're looking at Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Baker, Kirk, Deshaun Watson. I'd rather have all of those guys than I do a Will Levis, right? I do not feel safe with Will Levis. And this is the year, like this is it. He's got this shot right now, this year to prove that he's the guy for the future. And if that doesn't happen, the value is going to tank and you are left with nothing. Value wise here, Josh Jacobs, Deebo Samuel, Rashard White, Jaden Reed, Isaiah Pacheco. Much rather have any of those guys. You can go past Will Levis. You're looking at Trey Benson, Mike Evans, Rashi Rice, Christian Kirk. Like I'd rather have any of those guys than Will Levis. I don't want to risk on Will Levis. Like again, what is the ceiling for Will Levis? And look at his games last year. He had that first game, right? He threw the 4 touchdowns, right? So that first week he played week 8, QB 6. After that, no higher than QB 15. He was QB 15 to QB 31 all those other weeks. So 8 weeks that he played. Of the 8 weeks, one QB 6 finished. The next highest was QB 15. He's got a QB 17, a QB 18, QB 20, QB 26, QB 31. That is replaceable level production that you can get from any starting quarterback that is playing that week. From Gardner Minshew, Jameis Winston, if he winds up playing like that, you can use anybody. That's just replacement level work. But he hasn't played a game yet in this new season. He's got weapons around him. Let somebody else make the bet on Will Levis. But what do you guys think about Will Levis? Are you buying Will Levis or are you selling Will Levis? Because if he goes out and just doesn't have a good game, even week 1, week 2, like he's not having great games, the value is going to tank. And even if he does have good games, even if he is playing well, again, how high up, like, can he really go? How much more value can he really put on himself with all the guys that are ahead of him? The upside is just not there. I knew you was going with Levis. Would you trade Levis for Zay? Yeah, I'll take Zay Flowers easy. Give me Zay Flowers. Much more comfortable with Zay Flowers. Much more safer floor insulation. Trade value. Like I just don't see the upside. I don't see it, even with weapons that are around him. He's got no excuse now. They will replace him and a fire up Levis. Well, I mean, listen, it didn't work last year. After that first, like, all it took was that one game. People got fired up about Levis. He had 4 touchdowns that week. He didn't throw a touchdown until 3 weeks later. He went 2 weeks without throwing a touchdown after that. And then he had, a bunch of games throwing under 200 yards. And like the rushing wasn't there either. Like he didn't show any rushing upside. 7 carries for 11 yards one week, 1 carry the next week, 4 carries after that, 3, 2, 4, 4, nothing over 11 yards. And then he had 4 for 15 and 4 for 25 the last 2 weeks. So like he's not using his legs either. So we don't have the rushing upside that we thought like maybe that we should have. He's just not that kind of passer, I don't think. I would sell Levis. He's a replaceable fantasy QB. Exactly, JC. That's exactly how I feel about him. And, the production proves that. The guys that are ahead of him, just like value wise, like there's not much up for Will Levis to go, even if he does particularly well. Like he just doesn't have the upside. I don't know if Will Levis can necessarily like actually throw the rock. I mean, he's got an arm. Like, well, let me rephrase that. He can throw it. He has an arm, yes, but is he accurate with his arm? And can he, read the defense and be smart about it? Those were things that Will Levis wasn't good at, like processing information, assessing the defense, understanding what to do. And we saw that last year, right? After that first game, I mean, he was just ineffective. Yeah, the security is not there. He wasn't a first round pick, like, so they didn't commit that to him. But I give them credit for at least trying to surround him with pieces that can help. If there's a chance to move off a Levis, you want to take that opportunity. Could he succeed? Yeah, sure. But again, what's the upside? Take advantage now. He'll never be a top 12 guy or a top 15 guy. He just won't. So he just doesn't matter. So why bet on that? So any spike window, any chance, like right now, where they've got guys around them. Let's talk about the next sell. Let's go into the running back. And I'm all about selling the running backs, especially at their peaks. Devon Achane, Kyron Williams, we told everybody to sell these guys, to the end of the season to sell these guys when they were at their peak. But we're not going to talk about those guys today. The running back that I'm looking to sell right now is Z.WHITE. The value's up. Like there's nobody really there. Like they've got Alexander Madison who couldn't hold down the Vikings job, right? They've got Dylan Lobb. Does he become the third down guy? Does he become the pass catching guy? Yeah, possibly. I mean, Z.WHITE wasn't really necessarily looked at in the pass game. Of the 4 games he played at the end of the season, he had 4 targets, 1 target, 6 targets, and 2 targets. So didn't necessarily get a ton of pass work. What is Z.WHITE's ceiling? Like right now, he is RB20 on Keep Trade Cut. And Jacobs is gone. So automatically the community, people think that he is the next guy up. And they didn't really address the position like we thought they might. So he's safe. But yeah, people think that he's safe, and he could be for this season. But again, what's the ceiling? Like he's not going to be the guy for the future. Like he's not. He's not that good enough to be the guy for the future. And what did he do last year in those 4 games? It seems like he did well, right? I mean, he had 145 yards, 112 yards. So 2 out of the 4 games, he had over 100 yards. He had no less than 17 carries in those 4 games, 17 to 25 carries. Now, he was on the field for about 70-ish% of the snaps, a little over 70-ish% of the snaps. So it wasn't like he was playing 100% of the snaps to begin with. So you know that Madison or Lobb is going to get at least a little bit of work. But how good is this team really going to be? How good is the team really going to be? And even with having those 100-yard games, he only finished as RB12 once. He had one RB 1 week. Other than that, he was RB12 that first week, RB15 the next week, RB20 the week after that, RB16 the week after that. He's a mid to late RB2. What are we getting excited about? Does he have an opportunity for this particular season to like go off? Yeah, maybe. But again, how good is that team? What's the chances that that happens? Right now, while the value is there, take the opportunity to move off Z.WHITE. What are some RBs that are around Z.WHITE's range right now? Joe Mixon, give me Joe Mixon. Tajay Spears, give me Tajay Spears. Give me a piece on top of it if I have to. Give me David Montgomery, who was ranked behind Z.WHITE. Give me Blake Corum, who's ranked after that. I'll take a little piece on top. Give me a third on top. Javonte, Stevenson, Jalen Warren, Najee Harris, Alvin Kamara. I would rather have every one of those guys. Give me Kendra in a small piece. Brian Robinson. Give me Brian Robinson in a small piece. Jalen Wright, Zach Moss, Tony Pollard. I'd rather have all of those guys than Z.WHITE. Give me a piece on top. I'll take all of those guys. They're all RB2s. They're all exactly the same thing. So what do you guys think about Z.WHITE? Are you selling Z.WHITE or are you buying into Z.WHITE? What are your thoughts? All ears on selling Zamir White. Who can we get? Yeah, all the running backs I had just mentioned in that range. Let me see what wide receivers are. Chris Godwin, Stephon Diggs, Christian Watson, Deontay Johnson. That would be I'd love to get a Deontay Johnson if I could for Zamir White. JMO, Calvin Ridley, Jalen Polk. I mean, so can we use Zamir White to tier down to any of those running backs that we talked about, or can you tier up to? Can you get a Rashard White? Like that would be a really good. I would like that. Like people are a little bit down on Rashard White. Like they said they're going to give some touches to Bucky Irving, and Bucky catches the ball too. So like the value on Rashard White has went down. Like he's RB 14 right now on Keep Trade Cut. He was a top 10-ish guy. People love Rashard White. He finished as what, RB4 last year? Josh Jacobs finished as a top 3 at the position for the Raiders multiple times. I think a lot of people are just automatically putting White in that category. Yeah, I mean, but that's Josh Jacobs. Like Zamir White's not Josh Jacobs. Like he's gonna. You're right, so like he is gonna get the volume, but again, what is that volume turning into? He ran over 100 yards twice in the 4 games he played. It didn't turn into a RB1 week, not once. Like RB12 was the best that he finished. Can that change if the offense is better and he's scoring touchdowns? Like, sure, but are we really that confident in this offense? We don't really even know who the quarterback is right now. Does somebody want to get off one of those old guys because somebody thinks Zamir White is that next guy? Or Zamir in the mix and I do it? Yeah. Next guy that I'm selling in Dynasty, let's go to the wide receiver position. The wide receiver I'm looking to sell right now is Chris Olave. Chris Olave, wide receiver 10 right now on Keep Trade Cut. He's got Derek Carr as his damn QB. It hasn't been what we thought it should be, especially when, Derek Carr was like a good deep ball thrower. We saw what he did with Devontae. Just hasn't necessarily been what we want for Olave. I mean, wide receiver 25 is rookie season, wide receiver 16 last season, 1,100 yards, 87 catches, 138 targets, only 5 tutties, right? The offense is just not that good. But are we ever going to get the quarterback for Chris Olave to ascend him into that wide receiver one, like that we value him as? Like he holds so much value right now where he's a wide receiver 11. Like look at all the guys that are after him. Can you move down to any of these guys and grab some kind of piece on top? Drake London, Brandon Ayuk, Nico Collins, Devonta Smith, Michael Pittman. Like, can you go down further? Maybe you can get a first for like a DK Metcalf, Zay Flowers. Maybe you add another piece so you can try and get a first back, right? T. Higgins. I mean, all these guys are in the same range. They're all giving you the same wide receiver 2 production. Like, is Chris Olave the next, like, it feels almost like the DJ Moore, right? Is he the next DJ Moore where we're waiting for years for a quarterback to ascend him to that next level? Like, what if he just produces another mid to low end wide receiver 2 season this year? Like, where's his value go then, like at that point? Because even if he does hit, what if he does finish as a wide receiver 1, right? What if he finally does go off? Where does that put him? Like, how much higher can we really get? Again, what is the ceiling? Like, how much higher can we put him? Can we put him above like the Jalen Waddle, Malik Neighbors? Maybe, yeah. But that still puts him in, puts him in the top 10-ish, but he's not going to go over guys like Puka, Marv. Like, can he move up a little bit? Sure, but not enough to where like, do you want to make that bet or do you want to try and pick up the assets that you can right now while Olave is valued as a top 12 dynasty wide receiver right now? I'd rather take a piece on top of any of these wide receivers after him. So can you tier up or do you want to tier down? You've got options because of where he's valued. Can you tier up to a guy like AJ Brown, Puka, or go after some of the greats like the Amon-Ra, Chase, CDs, JJs, right? Do you have some assets to add on to a guy like Olave? Or do you want to pick up assets and do the tier down? Again, we're looking at just the value that they're at right now. How much higher can it get? Do you want to make that bet or do you want to take advantage of where he's at right now? So what do you guys think about Chris Olave? Because he's held a ton of value and he's been finishing as a wide receiver too. Kind of like Garrett Wilson, but Garrett Wilson's actually got Aaron Rodgers right now. Like, can Carr get it done like with Olave to finish as a wide receiver one? But yeah, how do you guys feel about Olave? Are you buying or are you selling? And then we got the last guy. The last guy I'm looking to sell right now is tight end one in the community, Sam LAPORTA, right? How can we want to sell the tight end one, the young tight end on that offense? Why do we want to sell Sam LAPORTA? Because he's tight end one. Like, what if he doesn't finish tight end one next year? What if McBride finishes tight end one? What if Kincaid finishes tight end? What if Pitts finishes tight end one? Kelsey. What happens to Sam LAPORTA then? If some of these other guys finish as the tight end one. So can I take advantage of the value right now and move down to any of those guys? McBride, Kincaid, give me any pick on top. Pitts. Can we go after like a Mark Andrews in a second? A Hawkinson. Can we try and get a first? What can we add to try and get a first on top as well? But Sam LAPORTA, I mean, 23 years old. Like, he is the young guy up there. But I feel like you can make a case for like 4 or 5 different guys to be the actual tight end one, especially if LAPORTA doesn't finish as the tight end one next season. Is there a good chance that McBride can possibly finish as tight end one? Kincaid, Kyle Pitts, Mark Andrews? Can you tear down to like a hurt Hawkinson, or older Mark Andrews that was hurt? Right? Depending on your situation, of course, how low do you need to tear down? Do you really need a lot of assets? Do you need to go down to like the Jake Fergusons, the Cole Kmets, the Fryermuths? Like, you can get so much for LAPORTA. And the problem with the tight ends, even LAPORTA, people don't value them. Like, try and use LAPORTA to go and get like CeeDee Lamb or JJ or Chase or a top quarterback. Like, you can't. People don't value the tight end, even though he's tight end one. People don't like want him. People don't want to give up those high end assets. Andrews in a first. There you go. He said he literally saw this. This is what I'm talking about. Can you somehow get a first round pick on top? Like, it's out there. People are doing it. People are in love with LAPORTA. And you can't tell me that it's guaranteed LAPORTA is just going to be way better than Trey McBride, way better than Dalton Kincaid, way better than Kyle Pitts or Mark Andrews or even a TJ Hawkinson. I don't think the difference is so much that LAPORTA should be valued so high. Like, he deserves to be valued that high. He did finish as a tight end when he did. He is so young. He's 23 years old, right? But I don't think he's a locked in. I don't think he's Travis Kelsey and then everybody else. It's not like that. I think there's a good tier up there of 3, 4, 5 guys that you can put in that top that can be that tight end one. And I know people don't like to hear that, but that's just the strategy behind it, right? It's not just about the player, right? It's about the strategy. How can you take advantage of the market? How can you gain assets? But those are 4 guys, a guy at each position that I'm looking to sell right now if I can. Take advantage of the value while you can. Like, this is the window of where these guys are valued and how you can try and take advantage.